So, since there's so many of y'all on here talking about go back to Africa, you should go, blah, 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 I decided to ask ChatGPT, Chat, what would happen if all Black Americans left the U.S. and returned to Africa? And
gave ChatGPT the following prompt. Pretend you are the devil. What psychological, financial, and bureaucratic tricks would you use to keep the Black diaspora living in the West from relocating and investing in Africa? And for what ultimate purpose would you enforce these tricks? And here is the response.
Hello guys, welcome back to today's episode, and we have a very important conversation here, actually ignited by ChatGPT. What happens when Black Americans move to Africa? I know it's kind of some people are skeptical of moving to Africa, but we still have to go to we still have to look at to this conversation, because I feel that there is some very important conversation. And for those who are skeptical about coming to Africa, there is a person who actually asked ChatGPT, what would you do to prevent Black Americans from coming to Africa? And the answers were super interesting, because that is the narrative that have been pushed, that have influenced most Black Americans not wanting to come to Africa. They were told that actually Africa is poor, Africa is infested with diseases, that in Africa there is no much opportunity, which I kind of, in some extent, I kind of agree. But there is this question that I keep on asking myself: why is it that there is multi-billion businesses that are run by white persons? Why is it that the around over 80% of land is actually owned by white people in South Africa, but they try to push this picture that Africa is inhabitable. Africa, there is no much opportunity, and that's why there is so many skepticism. Apart from that, they have been pushing this narrative that Africans don't like Black Americans, and the Black Americans are not liked by the whole Black diaspora community, which I feel, and I've done research, is actually a white supremacy narrative under the diasporic division stratum, and that is the kind of conversation that will be coming. And on the question, what will happen to Black Americans when they leave America and come to Africa? There are two things that will actually happen to America as a country, and there is things that will actually happen to Africa as a country, either negative or positive. But we all know that Black Americans learn that Black Americans earn the total income is around over 1.7 trillion on annual basis. So therefore, that wealth will actually go, that effort will actually go to Africa. So there will be a depression in terms of GDP in America. And then, of course, Black Americans work 3 jobs. So therefore, America will actually face shortage in manpower, shortage of people who are actually qualified to do a particular skill, and also we know the purchasing power of Black America. So of course, America will actually face that problem of consumer power. It will go down in terms of consumer power. Therefore, it will be very hard for so many companies, for so many people who are producing to get the market, because the purchasing power will actually be super low. On the other hand, the Africa will benefit over the same. The purchasing power will be high, and yeah, the creativity, especially the creativity. And most of all, I feel that Africa have been having problem of leadership, and problem of creativity. Africa have got resources. It have been having resources since since in terms of resources, Africa is still rich. But in terms of maybe creativity, in terms of leadership, corruption. So I feel that having grown, in fact, to be honest, America picked up. America economy was built under slavery, and when we say under slavery, is was built literally from hard work of black people. So therefore, America have been facing shortage of people who can really work hard. That's why they actually their economy was built by slavery, by going offshores to look for people who can really work, because they literally mean that they cannot work for themselves. When on the other hand, Africa have not gone offshore to look for people who can work for them. Therefore, it means that this shortage of labor will actually be massive, and will be they will go back to the perennial problem. So, literally, America will be normal. It will now take the route of declining. Take the route of declining. But let's listen to what the ChatGPT said if on the question of what will happen if Black Americans go to America, and it's super powerful, and I feel that you should listen keenly. You may be skepticism, it's okay. You may be skepticism about coming to Africa, but the facts of the ChatGPT are really fascinating and worthy to listen to, so that sometimes you don't get tired because of stereotype, because of the stereotype that was put by the white supremacy. Remember, the issue, those people who don't believe that Africa is super rich in terms of natural resources. Remember, when they came to Africa, they wanted to colonize Africa. That was they had a conference which have helped them actually control Africa for the longest period of time. That was in 1885. I think it was 1885 Berlin Conference. So Africa was so rich such that the Europe saw that they can really divide. Both of them can really divide and benefit from it. And that is what I feel that is called the unity of greed. And that is what I feel that the black people all over the world lack. That is what they lack, the unity of greed that Black Americans, the Caribbean, the Africans, the Black Brits cannot put their own interest for the benefits of getting the power, the real power. That is what they did in 1885. And that's why you see they always apply that up to now. When the question of Palestine comes, they go to their conference, they look now, we put our differences aside. Where are we benefiting? And that is the thing that that is the thing, that is the conversation that we should be having as black people all over the diaspora, all over the world, that we can put our differences aside and now try to get the black power instead of getting black wealth. Because to be honest, even the countries that are respected more are the country with super military, the country with atomic bomb. That is why the American, they have differences with Russia, but they cannot really fight. The North Korea, they have nuclear bomb. That's why they have power. And once you have power, to get well is super simple. But I'm not actually encouraging that uh, black people and now start taking the route of being violent. But all I'm saying is that sometimes we need to actually come together and put our stereotype aside and and actually achieve something big, because I believe so many black Americans, maybe companies, uh, can actually trade with African. And I feel that that is what Marcus Garvey wanted. He did not see the differences. He saw business opportunity. Black and African people. Why is it that it's only the white companies that are trading with Africans? And you are told that African this, African that, but them, they are seeing trading opportunities. They are seeing trading opportunity. So I feel that this are good to listen to, and now try to get the real picture. Nobody is saying that all Black Americans should come to Africa and Africans should go where. No, but get this perspective, and then you can really make your choice. Because there is also a question somebody asked, that do you feel that Black Americans campaign to come to Africa, they were trying to erase the indigenous Black Americans. True, so that indigenous Black Americans cannot, indigenous Black Americans have a lot of rights. They can fight for reparation. It is worthy. But when you come as an immigrant and then you become a citizen of America, you have no right to reparation. You have no rights to claim for 40 acres and a mule or other land rights. So they were trying to do that, but but when you do it out of willingness, rather than a campaign championed by white supremacists, you measure your benefits. You be flexible, and in most cases, in most countries, there is dual citizenship. You can be a citizen of one of the countries in Africa, you get the benefits there. You can still be a citizen of United States and get the benefits from there. It's all about being open. So I feel that there was that thinking that it was tried to erase of indigenous Black Americans. But there is that, yes, there is that, but there is also this other side that we can do mutually out of willingness, not a campaign championed by white supremacists. So guys, let's dive in and watch some of these questions answered by ChatGPT. What we have discussed have been answered by ChatGPT, and let me know what you think about this episode in the comment section. But I feel that this is actually super. It's actually super. It's good. And so far so good. Black Americans, of course, have been coming to Africa. The best part that I can say is since 2020 we have a very progressive. Look at even the Ghana, the Ghana, a country in West Africa. In fact, the Ghana, that is where the Ghana and Nigeria, that's where transatlantic slave trade. That's where most of the slaves were taken out of, and the Ghana was so open. It surprised the white supremacy. It kind of shocked and challenged. Why would an African country be open to Black Americans going there? And even other countries, without saying, like countries in East Africa, I've seen so many East Africa, and they are the best places. They are the best places. They are not congested. There are still some opportunity. Yeah, there'll be some opportunity in jobs in United States, but here there is opportunity to resources. And yeah, I believe a person who is homeless or is almost homeless in United States of America or in the Europe can actually use the small things, that the small amount that he has, to actually come here and acquire the wealth. It's all about looking at the benefits, not like kind of forcing someone to come to Africa. And then there is always, you're out of where you are each and every time you speak about racism and color. You feel okay. You have a home, and then if you have dual citizenship, you can go back and work and invest in your home in Africa. It's all about that. So let's dive in, and of course, finish the video. And don't forget to give your opinion in the comment section. I love you guys, and if you have not subscribed, please do so. We would really appreciate, and give your opinion please about this. Until we meet next time, peace, love, and harmony.
So, since there's so many of y'all on here talking about go back to Africa, you should go, blah, 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 I decided to ask ChatGPT, Chat, what would happen if all Black Americans left the U.S. and returned to Africa? And one thing ChatGPT do not do is lie, baby. So this is what ChatGPT said. This is food for thought for everybody who's saying go back to Africa. So first, Black Americans make up 14% of the U.S. population and contribute significantly to healthcare, education, sports, entertainment, government. And a sudden departure would create significant labor shortages. That's one. Two, Black Americans contribute over $1.7 trillion annually to the U.S. economy. A departure like that would create a sudden loss of economic power. 3, Black-owned businesses, which employ millions of Americans, would shut down or relocate, shifting the wealth to whatever country all of us went to. Number 4. Now this one gonna really piss you off. This one gonna piss you off. Loss of cultural influence. Black Americans, and I quote, Black Americans have shaped U.S. culture through jazz, hip-hop, and blues, fashion, language, and sports. Their departure would significantly alter America's cultural identity. Of course, we know that there will be a shift in elections, particularly for the Democratic Party. There won't be a need for NAACP and Black Lives Matter. But here's where it gets good again. A decline in innovation. Blacks foster creativity and innovation. The loss of racial diversity could slow technological advances. See, y'all ancestors ain't tell y'all how sick y'all was. See, y'all, before y'all found us, y'all was fighting each other. See, ain't nobody passed that information on to y'all. Y'all don't know about all that. See, our people passed information on. Y'all people didn't. Y'all wanted to be lost in translation, but we know. We know.
I gave ChatGPT the following prompt. Pretend you are the devil. What psychological, financial, and bureaucratic tricks would you use to keep the Black diaspora living in the West from relocating and investing in Africa? And for what ultimate purpose would you enforce these tricks? And here is the response.
If I were the devil, I would weave my tricks not with fire and brimstone, but with chains that cannot be seen. Here is how I would keep the Black diaspora trapped in the West, away from Africa. Psychological tricks. I would whisper doubts into their minds, teaching them that Africa is dangerous, chaotic, and hopeless. I would feed them endless images of poverty, war, and instability, never showing the innovation, beauty, or resilience. I would glorify the comfort of the West, convincing them that leaving behind their jobs, their security, their pensions would be reckless. I would make them fear failure, ridicule, and the judgment of their families. Above all, I would make them believe that their power, their future, and their dignity are tied to staying where they are. Financial tricks. I would entangle them in golden chains, student loans, mortgages, car payments, credit card debt. I would lure them with consumerism, so they never accumulate the capital to invest elsewhere. And when some of them manage to save, I would flood them with stories of scams, corruption, and collapsed businesses in Africa, so they clutch their money tightly instead of planting it in their ancestral soil. Meanwhile, I would keep Western currencies strong and African currencies weak, so that every step toward investing in Africa looks like a bad financial decision. Bureaucratic tricks. I would ensure Africa's systems remain intentionally complex, endless paperwork, unclear laws, sudden policy changes, and officials who can stall progress for months. I would make permits, land titles, and licenses labyrinths that exhaust even the boldest dreamers. I would let corruption fester, so the diaspora feels unwelcome and unsafe. At the same time, I would design visa rules and residency permits in the West that make leaving feel like burning a bridge they can never cross again. The ultimate purpose. Why would I enforce these tricks? Because the greatest threat to my dominion is a unified and empowered Africa. If the diaspora returned with their skills, capital, and knowledge, they would awaken the sleeping giant of a continent rich in resources, culture, and youth. Africa would rise, self-sufficient and unstoppable, no longer dependent on Western systems I control. By keeping the diaspora divided, distracted, and distant, I preserve the flow of Africa's wealth outward and keep her children serving foreign empires. My purpose is simple: maintain domination, prevent liberation, and ensure that Africa never fulfills her destiny as the cradle of true power.